That was a lot. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and today's video is going to be some baking recipes. So, I am a baker. My first year out of college, I started up a cookie business, and then after about 6 months doing the cookie business, I started working at a bakery, and I worked there for a few years where I learned a bunch about baking, as well as continuing my cookie business, and I still have my cookie business now. And I do bake more than just cookies. I do cookies, cakes, cake pops, Rice Krispies, pretzels, cupcakes, different things like that. But I get a lot of questions about baking healthier versions of desserts. And so honestly, I kind of took a break from just like baking in general. I really got more into cooking when we started our weight loss journey because I've always liked cooking more than baking. There really is a difference because cooking you have a little bit more freedom and baking is a little bit more precise. And after all the baking I was doing all day, every day at work, I just kind of took a break from it for a while. So I'm finally feeling motivated again to start baking, and it's honestly been really good. I've been testing out a bunch of different recipes and I have a lot of fun with that, especially trying to find the healthier substitutions, seeing what works, using like applesauce, Greek yogurt, some of the lighter chocolate chips or like sugar substitutes, and just seeing how everything works and how it turns out. So it is fun. It is frustrating when stuff turns out and it's not what you expect, but it's all a learning process and I really enjoy it. So that being said, I've been getting a lot of questions lately about doing some more baking recipes for you guys, and I've come up with 2 that I've made us that we love. I can't even get over how good this apple bread is. And then another one today I'm gonna try that I've never tried, but I really want to see if I can use this as a substitute. So I'll explain. But the first recipe I'm gonna be making is going to be a mixed berry chocolate muffin. We're gonna make the muffin batter, then we're gonna add some of these chocolate chips. These are just the skinny dip baking bits. Semi-sweet chocolate, and it's just lower in points for me. It uses allulose, so some people have issues with different sugar substitutes being able to digest them, but me personally, I'm able to use these and not have any issues. I really enjoy monk fruit sweetener as well. I found that I can use it as a sugar substitute and it works just as well. But anyway, I'm gonna be making mixed berry chocolate muffins, and I'm gonna be making apple breads, which are very similar to my banana bread. It's gonna be using Kodiak buttermilk mix. Then I'm gonna be ending with trying out a recipe I haven't tried yet. So one thing that I love, my favorite Christmas cookie, is a peppermint meringue, but with chocolate chips. And the one from Trader Joe's that I was buying all holiday season, obviously they don't have them anymore, but they didn't have chocolate in them either. So I'm gonna make them the way I like to make them, but I've never made them using this monk fruit sweetener instead of regular sugar. So that's where the points come in, because really it's just egg white and sugar to make a meringue. So we're gonna try it with this and see if it works the same, because this is supposed to be a 1-to-1 sugar substitute. So that'll just be a fun thing to try out at the end. Those bake for like an hour and a half, so I'm gonna do those last, and then I'll come back and go over everything as it's cooled. So let's go ahead and get started with the muffins. This makes 12 muffins. They come out to 2 points each for me. The only things I had to track were the flour and these skinny dip chocolate chips. So I use 2 tablespoons, which is 8 points. I use a cup and a half of flour, which is 19 points. And so that comes out to 12 2-point muffins. So I'm gonna use 1 muffin tin. Last time I made them, they stuck to the paper a lot, so I'm gonna try just not using a paper and then really spraying the muffin tin that I use. I'm just gonna go over all the ingredients really quick and then we'll get started mixing everything together. So you wanna start with the dry ingredients, combining those first. We're gonna be using 1.5 cup all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, some salt, which I don't have salt anymore. I thought I did, but I'm just using some of this. Some vanilla extract. I've been preferring cashew milk, but for baking it doesn't make much of a difference, and all I could find was almond milk. So I'm out of cashew milk, but almond milk works. I'm using the unsweetened original, so it'll be 0 points for a 1/3 cup that I'm using. Then I'm gonna be using a 1/2 cup of this monk fruit sweetener, a 1/3 cup of unsweetened applesauce, and I like to get the no sugar added, so it's 0 points. And I just like to buy these for baking specifically because this always comes out to the exact amount I need. Or if I don't use it all, I can eat the rest. But when I buy a big container of applesauce, it always goes bad. Okay, and then I have a berry medley mix that I'm gonna be mixing in. These are just frozen berries. So it's got strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries. And I'm probably just gonna finish the bag. I'll see, it's about like a cup of frozen fruit. And then these that I mentioned. But what I do is I measure out 2 tablespoons and then I already did it, but I just chop them up a little bit using a knife so that they spread out a little bit more and you get a little bit more out of the chocolate because they are kind of decent sized chunks. That is it. I'm gonna go ahead and get started combining my ingredients. Like I said, I combine the dry, add in the wet, add in the fruit and the chocolate, and then we're gonna divide them into 12 muffin tins. Okay, so my muffins are ready to go in the oven. It's preheated to 400 and I'm gonna put them in there for like 12 to 15 minutes and check on them. I'm gonna start with 12 minutes. And I just tried to make sure the berries were divided. This one had more, so I scooped one out and put it in there and mixed them up a little, give this one more batter. But yeah, I just divide them evenly using an ice cream scoop. Okay, so while my muffins are baking right now, I'm gonna go ahead and make the batter for the apple breads. So what I like to do when I make these, the same way as I like to make my banana bread, which I'll leave the link in the description below for that recipe. I like to use these loaf pans, and I can also link these from Amazon. These ones specifically are Wilton. They are 5 3/4 by 3 inches, and I just think they're perfect. I divide it evenly between 3, and then each loaf comes out to 8 points total for the whole thing. And that is if you do the topping, which you don't have to do, and I'll explain that later, but we're gonna be doing a little streusel topping on top of each bread. So I'm gonna spray these with cooking spray and then go ahead and start making the batter for that. So what we're gonna need for these apple breads is Kodiak buttermilk mix. And I've actually done it with other types. So I've done it with the cinnamon oat and the honey and buttermilk before. So you can really use any of the flavors they have. They just might be a little bit higher in points. This is just the basic buttermilk one. Okay, so we're gonna start out by smashing 1 banana, and then we're gonna add in 1/3 cup of applesauce. I'm using that same unsweetened, no sugar added, 2 eggs, a 1/2 cup of almond milk, and then I'm also using a 1/4 cup of this non-fat Chobani Greek yogurt. That's 0 points as well. Then we're gonna add in a teaspoon of vanilla, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, as well as 2 cups of this Kodiak mix, a 1/2 cup of this Swerve brown sugar replacement. This stuff, I love this stuff. And then 1 Honeycrisp apple, which you can use any apple you want. You can use frozen apples even if you'd like to, but I like to dice mine into kind of like small cubes. I just find it spreads out in the bread better that way. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna bake that at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and start combining the ingredients, mashing the banana, and then I'll show you how I divide it between the loaf pans. Okay, so now I'm gonna quickly show you how I make the streusel topping for these apple breads. So if you don't do this step and you don't top them, which you could also just top them with nuts if you'd rather do that, or just leave them plain, then they actually come out to 5 points for 1 loaf, but this adds 9 points to the recipe, which adds 3 points to each bread. So this to me is worth it. I think it adds a lot to the breads and I love the streusel topping, but again, you don't have to do this. So what I did is I melted 1 tablespoon of just regular butter. I'm adding a 1/4 cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of Swerve brown sugar, and then 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm just gonna use a fork to combine it. Okay guys, so the last recipe that I'm making, like I said, this is kind of for myself. I know it's more of a Christmas cookie, but I've been craving the peppermint meringues from Trader Joe's that I was buying a lot during the holiday season. They don't have them anymore, so I'm gonna figure out a way to make a lower point version for myself. When you make meringues, you wanna make sure everything you're using is very clean, no oil or anything. And I'm gonna be using my standing mixer, my KitchenAid. It is a 5-quart, and I'm just gonna be using a regular bowl with the whisk attachment. But if you have a handheld mixer, that works as well. You can't really do this by hand. You kind of need the power of either a handheld mixer or a stand mixer. But anyway, what I have is 2 egg whites, and what I like to do is crack them into a dish and let them get to room temperature that way, because they're supposed to be room temperature, and there have been times when I crack the eggs after they've been sitting out for an hour and I've been waiting, and then I get yolk in them, and you cannot have yolk in them at all. If you do, just save them in the fridge. You could use them as scrambled eggs the next day or something, but you cannot have yolk or they won't work. So I like to crack them before I let them get to room temperature, just so I can guarantee there's no yolk or anything. I can leave them covered, and then they're ready now. So they've been sitting out, 2 egg whites, and really all you're gonna do is whisk that. Now the normal recipe that I make around Christmas time is regular sugar, but today I'm gonna be trying the monk fruit sweetener. Now this is supposed to be 1 cup of sugar equals 1 cup of this monk fruit sweetener. It's supposed to be a 1-to-1 substitute, so we're just gonna go all in and try it. The recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of sugar, so I'm gonna be using a 1/2 cup of the monk fruit sweetener. Then you need an 1/8 teaspoon of salt, an 1/8 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and then this you don't have to use, but I like the peppermint flavor, so I'm using some peppermint extract. I'm gonna use like a 1/2 teaspoon of that. Then I went ahead and chopped up the skinny chocolate chips I showed you from before, like very fine this time, so a lot more than I had done for the muffins, but that way when I mix it in, they're not too big of chunks. And you don't have to add the chocolate as well. That's something I just prefer when I make them around the holidays. Then I had just gotten a bag of like the regular circle peppermint candies, and I just put them in a bag like this and crushed them with a meat hammer. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and top them with. Now, when you make these, you can either scoop them out if you want to, or you can use like a gallon bag or something. I run a bakery, so I have a ton of piping bags. And then I'm just using this 1A tip, so it's like a big round tip. I'll go ahead and put my meringue in here and then just pipe it onto the tray, but it doesn't really matter how you put it on the tray. And then I'm gonna put it on a tray that's just got a parchment paper on it. Don't use foil, but parchment paper works really well. Oh, and also, I have the breads cooking. They're not done yet. It's at 350, but when you bake these, they only bake at 225, but like I mentioned, it's for an hour and a half. So I'm gonna wait until the breads are done to put these in. I think it'll be like perfect timing, but I'm gonna leave the door open for a minute to let it get down to 225, because it cannot be too high or they will brown and they won't dry out the way that they're supposed to. So we're gonna put the egg with the salt and the cream of tartar and go ahead and whisk that up until we get soft peaks, which I'll show you what that looks like. Then after that, we're gonna add the sugar in gradually, and then I'm gonna add the chocolate chips and the peppermint extract. Okay, so we've got some stiff peaks. I'm just gonna go ahead and hand mix in the chocolate chips, put them in the piping bag, and then we're gonna go ahead and top them with the peppermint. So the peppermint was a struggle. I could have crushed those a little bit better. But anyway, the apple breads just went off. They have 5 minutes left. I did 40 minutes and then tested them. They're not fully done. I just use a toothpick to test them. Those need 5 more minutes. So when those are done, I'm gonna set the oven down to 225, and then we're gonna get these started. Okay, so here are the finished meringues. I ended up leaving them in there for about an hour and 15 minutes, and then you turn off the oven and let it cool while they stay in there. You're not supposed to let them get brown like this at all, but I'm wondering if maybe it had something to do with the monk fruit or my oven wasn't at the right temp. Usually I like to test it with a thermometer and I didn't. So the oven may have been too hot, but either way, they look pretty good and we're excited to try them, which Adam just made it home perfectly in time for our taste test. Okay, so Adam actually got home just in time to try everything. I just got dinner in the oven and this is all done. So we're gonna have dessert before our dinner, I guess, but we're gonna go ahead and try everything. So this is the muffin. As you can see, you could probably add more berries, more chocolate chips, but that's just what I wanted to do for the points. These come out to 2 points for the entire muffin. I was trying to put it together.
Oh, sorry.
2 points. 2 points for a whole muffin. And you can make any revisions you want to switch up like what you mix in and stuff. So cheers.
Cheers.
And these you can leave out on the counter for a few days, but I like to just throw them in the fridge because when I eat them, I sometimes throw them in the air fryer. These are really good. So now the apple cakes or breads, they're so good. This is like our favorite recipe now. So 1 loaf, and it makes 3 of them, comes out to 8 points. And like I said, if you don't want to do the topping, it is only 5 points for the entire loaf. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's
it adds 9 points because it's butter.
That's not bad. Oh.
This is what it looks like, and it's like the perfect size apple chunks. I like when they're smaller like that, like I said, but there's a lot in there. It just gets spread out better, so cheers. It's called Streusel, by the way.
Strudel. The big apple chunks are so good.
So half that loaf is 4 points. Like, that's crazy.
That's so good.
It's so good. I don't even peel the apples when I do it. I like it with the peel on. I don't really notice it, but. And with the apple breads, you can freeze them. We've actually done that. We usually do when we make the 3 loaves. I'll usually freeze one of them because the other 2 don't last that long. But other than that, you can leave it on the counter. We like to store it in the fridge. And again, I like to cut a slice and put it in the air fryer. I really like it heated up, although it is good cold too. Like I mentioned, this was my first time doing this. I just wanted to do like a test recipe with you guys. Remember how I make these for Christmas, the peppermint meringues? I tried them with monk fruit sweetener. So these actually come out to, I mean, I used 6 points worth of chocolate, and that's the only thing we have to track. So there's, this whole thing is 6 points.
Holy.
So I guess we could divide how many we got. They're not all totally even. This is how they turned out. And like I said, they got a little bit browner than they were supposed to, but we'll see. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh my god. What?
Okay.
That melts in your mouth.
It is a different texture from meringues though.
It's good though. What is, why?
They're really sweet too. I think you could reduce the sugar. So, not sugar, the monk fruit sweetener. So, I used a half cup. I think I could get away with using a 1/4 cup.
Oh, that's so
and it would still be just as good. I don't know if it would bake differently, but I'll test that out next time maybe. But I'm gonna eat these. These are supposed to be like the Trader Joe's.
I just started drooling a little bit. Yeah, I know. I kind of like them a little crunchy like that.
They're weird because they're almost like grainy, but they're not. It like disappears so quickly.
Yeah, like melts in your mouth like cotton candy.
It is like cotton candy.
Oh my gosh.
You like it?
So good.
We're gonna eat all these. How are we gonna be hungry for dinner?
I don't know.
They could use more chocolate.
Half this tray's 3 points, so.
Like I said, you could use less of the sugar or monk fruit sweetener. It did change the texture a little bit, but it's still really
so
good.
I like this texture better.
It just melts in your mouth. It really is like cotton candy.
It's seriously like soft and like crunchy. It makes no sense, but it's so
good. Amount of peppermint.
Oh, perfect.
Good amount of chocolate.
Perfect.
Could probably use more chocolate, but anything could. Okay, yay, so that one was a success. Like I said, I'm gonna try it again with half the monk fruit sweetener, but that's really good. And now we have baked goods for the week.
Oh yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and we will see you next time.